Hi Mike, thanks for the footage. Just a quick recap on the work that we did in your previous session. The movement of the left knee through the ball is much better, especially for that longer club. You said in your email that you're getting a feel now for how pushing up out the ground at a different time and at a different rate has an effect on the angle of attack. So you can see the left leg pushing up from P6 through to P8, bringing the club out of its descent, allowing you to maintain the loft on the club in a little bit more of an appropriate manner. When we're hitting an iron, we want to keep the flex in the knee a little bit longer so that we're hitting down on it more with negative loft. When we're hitting a rescue club or a fairway wood, we'd want a nice incremental movement, and then with a driver we'd want to see that left leg straightening more and sooner from P6 to P7, really shallowing out the descent, allowing us to hit the driver with a level to slightly upward angle of attack, maintaining loft and ideally adding a little bit of loft so we're hitting it with positive loft, which is more conducive to the lower lofted clubs. So what I want to look at now is where do we go from here. There's still a few things in there that are residual, that are based on what you've done in the past. I do think, however, that this session is going to help you a tremendous amount in regards to the overall freedom of movement. What I see is quite an athletic guy who's got quite a limited range of motion. So we look at, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, as in you can't move that far. What I mean is you sort of, the mechanics of your swing are preventing your shoulders from travelling much further than, let's say, 70 degrees. A lot of guys, just quickly before I mention this next bit, there's a little bit of a sort of lifting of the arms as you complete the backswing. That's a little bit of a bending of the left arm, etc. And one of the reasons I feel for this is because a lot of guys out there are obsessed with this left knee working forward towards the baseline all the time. Now, what you've got to remember is when Mike and Andy did the book, and I'm not speaking on their behalf here, this is just observations, speaking with Mike and Andy, spending time with them, also, my experience from coaching different pupils who've sort of done stack and tilt DIY, if you will, they've read the book, etc., watched the DVDs. Particularly in the early stages with the book and the first set of DVDs, there was a lot of emphasis on the fact that during the backswing, the lead leg should flex towards the target line. You can see there the left leg is flexing forward as the right leg straightens. And we look at Grant Waite from face on, we see a similar thing, right leg straightening, left leg flexing forward. The reason that's stressed is because historically what would happen with a bad golfer is that a poor ball striker, slice the ball, this left knee would just drift inwards, it wouldn't do anything else. So it's not that the inward movement of the left knee is the issue, it's the fact that the left knee, as it's moving in, it needs to be continuously flexing forward to offset the inward movement. If it doesn't, we're pushed off the golf ball. Now, one of the issues I've got when players are too obsessed with that move is that whilst the hips work on a tilted angle, they don't turn enough. So what I'm seeing here with yourself is I'm seeing a player who, by let's say P5.5, when the left arm is just past parallel to the ground, okay, your body doesn't really do a great deal more from that point. And what's happened here is the right leg straightened, the lead leg has worked out towards the baseline a tremendous amount. As a result, the right hip has worked up, but it hasn't worked behind us a great deal. And again, from down the line, we see with Charlie that that right hip is always working in and behind. Now, different players have different levels of flexibility, obviously, and people like Charlie and Grant are able to get the shoulders to travel through 90 degrees with a minimum amount of hip turn. What I'd like to see with yourself is to free those hips up. I have absolutely no problem with the left knee working in. And again, I'm going to, a little bit like we talked about rates of rotation, etc. If we say, if the left knee moves in 5 inches. It's got to flex forward 5 inches. Now, I've no doubt that if I strap you up in 3D equipment and we looked at that to the nth degree, it could be that that's not quite 100% a definitive sort of description. But for you as a golfer, when you're in the nets practicing and you haven't got the 3D equipment strapped to you, it's just a nice way of visualizing things. So what I would say is we've got to free up the hips. I see a player whose hips are working up but not in enough. The limited movement in the hips is inhibiting the amount that the shoulders can turn. And in an attempt to get the butt of the club to travel further, that's when the lead arm starts to flex. We also get a little bit out in front of it a little bit too soon because, again, that lead leg hasn't really moved in enough. What I will do, I'll forward you some images of Troy Mattison and Charlie Wee, both from Face On, both at P4, both working within the same chosen system, but you'll see the difference in the amount of hip turn and the amount of travel on the lead leg, the left knee, simply because Charlie's more flexible than Troy. With Troy, you're going to see a lot more inward movement. So the left knee moving in is not a problem as long as it's continuously flexing forward. As the lead leg is allowed to move in, that's going to facilitate more of a hip turn, which is going to allow your shoulders to travel further, which is going to free up the movement in the left arm, which will require much less of a flexing of that arm upon the completion of the backswing. In order for you to practice this between now and when I can get the images across to you, really look at the images, digest the images, don't overcomplicate this movement. What I'd like you to concentrate on doing is propelling the butt of the club as far back as you can without flexing the arms. So I want you to spend a little bit of time, and ideally on this one, this is something that I'd like to, when we hook up on Skype, I'd like to demonstrate for you. And it's something that I don't want to leave too long before I get to your next sort of set of videos. So if you can work on this for maybe 2 weeks, and then get me some more videos across, because other things will start to change on the back of this. So in order for you to propel the butt of the club as far as you can without flexing the arms, you're going to have to get the shoulders to travel further. In order for the shoulders to travel further, the hips are going to have to be freed up, and in order for you to turn the hips, the left knee's got to work in. As the left knee works in, it's got to continue to work forward in order for you to stay centered. So I don't want you drifting off the golf ball. It may be worth on your workstation here getting a basket of balls or a box, shoe box of some description, getting an alignment cane and having it stuck out in front of you in this sort of position, so that it's in your peripheral vision when you set up to the golf ball. Have it directly in line with your sternum, and it gives you something to stay in line with during your backswing that you can see. So propel the butt of the club as far as you can. Don't be shy, get some big John Daly looking swings in there. As far as you can without flexing the arms and without moving off the golf ball. So what you're going to find when you do this is you're really going to have to free up the hips. I'll get the stuff across with Troy. I'll also email you some footage of a guy I work with called Mark Ramsdale, who has this particular issue, and he's really good player, Mark, but the difference in his swing when he frees up that left knee is remarkable. You'll see that, and the images don't lie. He hits the ball much further, he hits it much better, and the overall aesthetics of the swing improve dramatically. So that's the real sort of area I want to try and get. I want to free up your hips and give you a better understanding of what the left knee can do. It's not a case of having to swing a certain way. You swing a certain way based around the system. So if the knee has to move in to allow the hips to travel, it needs to flex forward for longer. Hopefully that's a clear description for you. If not, feel free to find me some emails across, ask as many questions as you like. I'll get the other stuff across to you, probably with a link to this video, if not within the next 24 hours. Hope this finds you well, and I really look forward to hooking up with you further in the winter months. Well done.